we're back with another fun episode of On the Record with Tiffany and Kevin. And guess what, y'all? I'm again by myself. So you're going to get all the smoke from me and all the energy from Tiffany and no Kevin. Sorry, Kevin L. Smith. Today we have my usual favorite co-host, Mr. Reginald Ballard of State on the Screen. That's right. Hey, bro, man.
What's up, y'all?
And we have a special guest, Mr. Mike Curtis. He is the president and CEO of eGenesis. Welcome to our show, Mike.
Thanks, Tiffany. Great to be here. Appreciate it.
Can you tell our audience a little bit about eGenesis and how it came about?
Sure, yeah, happy to. So eGenesis was founded about 7 years ago with the idea of transforming the treatment of patients suffering from solid organ failure. Our focus has been around kidney, liver, and heart, and it was really founded on technology that was developed at Harvard in George Church's lab, using modern molecular biology or modern ways to engineer the genome, specifically the porcine genome, using a technique called CRISPR-Cas9. So this was an editing technology that was discovered about 10, 12 years ago, and allows us to go in and precisely change the genetics of porcine donors or pig donors. And by using this technology, we've been able to improve the compatibility of porcine organs or pig organs with initially primates. We did a lot of studies in primates, but is more recently in people. And so we believe that this is it will be a change, a radical change in how we think about treating patients that are suffering from end-stage organ failure.
So you took this in 12 years from an idea in a lab to actually transplanting an organ into a human being.
Yep. So we actually have been at it for about 7. The technology that we use was discovered about 12 years ago. Yep.
Wow. So how, in a 7-year period, you did this. So so tell our audience what your greatest discovery is, because we've been hearing all about it, but they need to hear from you.
Sure. No, happy to. And it's a series of changes that we make to the pig donor to improve the compatibility. So the first group of changes that we make are to reduce what we call hyperacute rejection. So if I were to take a pig kidney and just put it into a monkey, it would be rejected in minutes, right? They're just completely incompatible. And what was discovered over the past 40 years is that there's differences between the sugar molecules in pig and human, what we call carbohydrates, right? And those carbohydrate differences lead to what we call hyperacute rejection. And so by making 3 changes to the pig genome, we can improve the carbohydrate compatibility between pigs and humans and get rid of hyperacute rejection, right? And so that was discovered, and that was discovered again over the past few decades, and we've put those edits into our pig. The next set of changes are we introduce human genes to improve compatibility. We introduce 7 human genes to control things like coagulation, immune response, and a pathway we call complement. And complement activation could lead to rejection. So we add these genes to control rejection. So that's 7 edits. And then there's another 59 edits to get rid of things called endogenous retroviruses. So in every pig breed, you're going to have these viruses in the pig that pose a risk to human recipients. And this has been a worry in the field for a long time, that we don't want to have disease transmission from pigs to humans. So the way we address it is we go in using this technique called CRISPR-Cas9, and we inactivate all copies of the retroviruses, so all 59 copies. So when you add all this together, we do 3 knockouts, we add 7 human transgenes, and then we knock out all 59 copies of the endogenous retrovirus. That's the donor organ that Mr. Slayman received earlier this month, or back last month now, and that's performed so well. And for us, we did a series of monkey transplants over the past 5 years to show that this collection of edits would produce good outcomes in animals, and that led us to, again, move this forward into treating the first patient.
I got a question. When you do transplant the pig kidney into the human, with the anti-rejection medication, do they have to take? Will that pose a threat to the one of the edits that you, as far as the 59 edits, as far as the viruses? Would that?
So no, right? So we designed this all with the idea of using immunosuppression that you would typically use for a human transplant, right? So we've been doing, human kidney transplants for 40 years or so. So we use what we call allosuppression. We use that immunosuppression combined with a newer suppression called a T-cell co-stimulation blocker. Those two things combined lead to this long-term outcome, and those things don't have an adverse effect on the kidney.
How does that work with precision medicine? So every time we bring nephrologists on the show, the consistent conversation is precision medicine. All medicine is moving towards precision medicine. Can you tell us, what are the implications for that, and how does that work with underrepresented communities?
Sure. So first, on the precision medicine piece, I think what we've done here is a version of precision medicine, right? So this starts from hyperacute rejection. So first, we had to understand why were the porcine organs being rejected so quickly. Once we understood the molecular foundation for why that was happening, we could then go into the porcine genome and make the right changes to get rid of hyperacute rejection. And so as we go forward, when we think about precision medicine, what's really important about these first human transplants is, depending on the outcome, it will inform what additional work do we need to do to produce longer surviving grafts. Our ultimate goal is to produce organs that don't require immunosuppression, right? So can we engineer the pig in a way that we can just get rid of suppression completely? We can just do a transplant, and then the patients can go home and never have to take another immunosuppression drug. That's the vision for what we're doing. But in order to make that happen, we believe we need to understand what happens with the current donor. So when we put this organ into patients, we want to study what the patient's response is, and then that will inform how we engineer next. When you think about addressing underserved communities in the transplant world, we think that this is really the only viable solution, right? Is to create a renewable, endless supply of organs, so that allocation, the current allocation system is handicapped just by the availability, right? We just have only so many organs to go around, and there has to be some allocation. And in any allocation, there always is inequity, right? But if we can supply an endless supply where supply is not a constraint, then hopefully, these inequities can be resolved.
That's what I was thinking. That's why I asked that question about the immune suppression, because it seemed like the edit that you say, the 59 that you do for all the viruses, it seemed like you wouldn't even have to use the suppression. That's what I wanted to know. You wouldn't even have to take the rejection.
No, not quite yet, because I think there's still other incompatibilities between the porcine organ and the human recipients that lead to the need for suppression. So your immune system will be looking at that pig organ as foreign, right? And so it will be trying to form an immune response against it. Our goal is to continue to edit in a way that eventually your immune system will view that as part of you and won't be trying to reject it.
Wow.
How long?
Go ahead.
How long before so this is your first person that you've done this transplant in. How long before you can do it in multiple people?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think in part it depends how well Mr. Slayman does over the next few months. But in his particular case, he had run out of treatment options. He was losing access to dialysis. And so this was sort of the last thing for him to try before he would lose dialysis. I think there are more patients, unfortunately, there are more patients like him that we could study this in. But I think as we start to have success in these patients who are sort of at the end of the treatment options, our goal will be to move into patients earlier in their disease progression. So we don't want to wait until someone spends 7 years on dialysis.
Yes.
We know the prognosis. So if we show the right safety profile, the intention would be to start to treat patients earlier in disease progression. And if you take that to the end, the intention would be to transplant patients before they ever have to go on dialysis. Right. So, and that's all just going to be continuing to build the data to show that we can actually do that. So our goal over the next, the rest of this year is to try to do additional patients. And we really haven't got into a number, but you can think of like single digit numbers of patients. And then with that data, the intention would be to expand into a much larger trial, consisting of tens of patients. And then eventually, hopefully, go for an approval and then be able to open it up to thousands of patients.
What did it take?
What was it, eGenesis, or was it another company did a pig's heart transplant before?
Yeah, that was our colleagues at Revivicor. So they have a transgenic animal they've built, and they did the first 2 heart transplants at Maryland. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When was that?
Did that go well?
From a first in human, we view it as a real success. Now, for the 2 patients, Mr. Bennett and Mr. Fawcett, unfortunately, they passed away within 50 days post-transplant. Now, these were 2 gentlemen who were in very, very sick, very end-stage heart failure, and it's unclear how much of their illness, their existing illness, contributed to their early death. Right. It's clearly not the outcome any of us want. We want much longer-term outcomes. But as a first step, it was successful, and I think it's something that we can build on.
Mm. Mm.
Well, how is your patient doing with the kidney transplant?
Yeah, so yesterday he was discharged from MGH, so he's home now.
Wow.
He's been doing really well. I mean, the recovery's gone well. His kidney function looks great. His overall health seems great. Seems to be in a great mood, great spirits, and every day is another day, right? And we just have to keep monitoring and keep working with him to manage the suppression and manage kidney function over the course of the next several months. We're very encouraged by the first couple of weeks. Great start. Long way to go, but again, we're off to a fantastic start.
It's kind of seemed like we are closer to the primates. It's no thing that you guys think about using those kidneys for humans, because I know you said if you put a pig in the monkey, the monkey would reject immediately. It's interesting because it seems like we should have a more relationship with a kidney of a primate than a pig.
Yeah, there's a couple of challenges there, and that's a great idea, and that's where the field first started, was in chimpanzees, and the challenge is, one, the ethical part of raising chimpanzees to be organ donors. We've been raising pigs in the agricultural world for food for hundreds of years. Right. The other challenge is editing. Doing the editing that we just did in the pig is much harder to do in the monkey, especially in chimpanzee. And the scaling of production of chimpanzees would be very difficult compared to scaling of production for pigs. So there's some technical and ethical, I think, limitations to using chimpanzees. There were some work that was done in the 40s and 50s that showed some promise doing a chimpanzee kidney transplant, but it didn't. It was at the early days of human to human transplant too, so we didn't have the immunosuppression that we have now. So they didn't work that well, but they probably would work reasonably well. But it's just not practical to do that with thousands of patients.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at this in terms of the 140,000 people, the estimated 140,000 people that need a kidney, what do you see as the future for those folks?
Yeah, no. So again, I think with continued success in patients like Mr. Slayman who have really run out of treatment options, our goal is to continue to advance into patients who are less critically ill and less close to death, but still in kidney failure, right? So keep moving into the wait list. And the goal in the next 5 years is to eliminate the wait list. Right, so there is no more kidney transplant wait list. Then, as you guys know, if you think even broader, right, if you think beyond the wait list, there's hundreds of thousands of patients on dialysis that will eventually find themselves on the wait list, right? And our ultimate goal is to eliminate the need for dialysis completely, right, and to put folks into a new kidney versus putting them on chronic dialysis.
So
Michael,
do
you
the
ready
pigs
for what
you
that
guys
means?
raise?
You ready for the fight you about to have with dialysis? Making statements like that.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
So do the pigs that you guys raise, what kind of diet are they fed? Are they fed like a more traditional pig diet, which eat anything, or you have them like on a strict type of nutrition?
Yeah, so our donor animals are very well controlled and closely controlled. So they're on a very strict diet, strict weight gain. One of the things that we do when we raise these animals is to control any kind of pathogens or diseases. That we want to make sure that these animals are very clean and very disease-free, right? So they're raised in a highly controlled environment. We actually did a piece on CNN back in January where Sanjay Gupta toured one of our production facilities in the Midwest. And so that'll give you a sense for the rigor that we go through to make sure that these animals are clean and that we don't pose a risk to patients with a potential disease transmission.
So there's no pig slop they eating over there.
No.
That's right, Mike. We're not going to get a kidney and then find out that that there's some kind of crazy problem going on.
That's what we're trying to avoid. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like some kind of, because like I got a kidney, and the person kidney I received wrote a letter to my doctors saying that she was vegetarian all of her life. Mm-hmm. But so not this past Christmas, was Christmas before last. For some reason, I did not like meat no more. I didn't crave meat anymore. I don't know. I'm like, well, how did this happen? So I was thinking, a person that with a pig kidney, they eating pig slop. So they start craving slop.
Right? Don't let Brumman put his logic.
Man, it's gonna take him out and give him some slop, man. That's because I thought, because I'm the one told kid. I mean, I was telling Tiffany, I said, hey, I see this company, they did a pig transplant, and she's like, really? So she got in touch with you guys. That's cool.
I think that's the source of information for me on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but it seemed like I don't know if I heard it before that somebody attempted that, or if it was you guys. You guys are the first that attempted the pig kidney for it and successful.
We're the first to do it in a living patient. Yes. So there was some work done over the past couple of years where transplants have been done in patients that are in brain death.
Yes.
So patients that might otherwise be an organ donor, for some reason they get disqualified from organ donation. So they donate their whole body to science. And right. The teams at NYU and University of Alabama have done short-term transplants in those patients. Yeah. Mm. But this is the first time anyone's ever done it in a living patient, with the expectation that he's going to hopefully live a long time with this porcine kidney.
I have to tell you, when Reg first mentioned it to me, I was like, because I'd heard about the folks that had done it in a person who was brain dead, but I did not know anything about somebody doing a transplant in a living, functioning human being. And I was like, are you sure? Like, is this?
Yeah, because when I text you, she say, I haven't heard nobody do it. I said, I heard them do it in a non-living person. I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't know.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
My television watching pretty much goes, I'm either watching C-SPAN or.
But I seen it on I was reading about it, I think on Newsbreak or Yahoo News, one of them. I was reading about the eGenesis, and I thought it was very interesting.
He texted me, and I was like, okay, let's see if we can talk to him, because our population. So we are I'm headquartered in San Antonio, Texas. And what we do is we build models for early detection, because I've lost 16 family members to a rare kidney disease called APOL1 mediated kidney disease. And, one of the things that we discuss consistently is the importance of early detection and the importance of precision medicine because the African American community is so genetically diverse. So when you're dealing with something as important as a transplant, there are a lot of things that come into play, high antibodies, all of this stuff that most people don't even know exists. They don't realize that this is a problem. All they know is all of a sudden I'm in renal failure and I'm scrambling, trying to figure out what I need to do next. So when we started this show, it was really to educate people about their options, what you all are doing in these innovative medical programs. And so you really kind of rose to the top for us because that, we discuss disparities all the time. Everybody, it's a national headline. Everybody talks about the disparities in healthcare. But this is one of the ways to alleviate that.
We think so. Yeah, we think it could be a huge step in the right direction to solve that equity, challenge in space.
Yeah.
I have a question. Dumb questions. People say, it's dumb. If you don't know, you don't know. Now, do a pig have two kidneys or one?
Yes. Yep. Two.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Just like
and Mr. Slayman received one, but just like you would in a
right.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys don't have to euthanize the pig because this pig can still live with one kidney.
The intention is to donate both kidneys. So the intention is to treat two patients with one animal. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, those pigs probably go to Whole Foods, so it's good bacon then. They fed.
They do not, though. They do not. They don't make it into the food chain. No. Nope. That's a rule. That's a big rule.
Yeah.
So how does this work? Have you been talking with the transplant programs and how they would do this and integrate it into teaching their folks? Is it very different from the usual transplant?
It's not. It does take the anatomy on the pig kidney is a little different than human, so it does take a little bit of experience. What we've seen, we've been working with the team at Mass General. We worked with the team at Duke, University of Wisconsin, and all the major transplant centers are very interested. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but after the surgeons have done some work in the primate, they have the technique down. So there's the first one went really smooth, and part of that is because Tatsuo, who had done most of our primate work for us, so he'd already been working in the monkey with these porcine kidneys for years. So it was relatively straightforward to move it into patients. But yeah, there's a little learning curve, but any good surgeon can definitely learn how to do it.
But we've been using pigs because they use pig insulin, right, for diabetics.
Yep. In the early days, they don't use it as much anymore. But yeah, definitely in the early days of insulin, that was all derived from the pig. Yep. Yeah. And so the physiology of the pig and the human is very similar, and this is why we believe that the pig kidney, pig heart, pig liver can support a patient. That's because the similarities are pretty good, high between pigs and humans.
Yeah, you wouldn't even think that. You wouldn't even think that pig and humans are that close. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Surprisingly similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, we're coming to the end of our episode, and we will be right back. We got to pay a few bills, and we will be right back here on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, home of conservative talk radio. Who would have known we would be bringing you the kidney transplant? A kidney transplant with a genetically engineered pig kidney. Life is looking up. They can do anything now.